Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ramon Foster Show, starring, not coincidentally, Ramon Foster. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. And Moan, we have actual football to discuss. That's a cool thing.
We do. And for the next how many weeks? We got, what, months?
Months.
I
prefer to think of it as months.
Months. That's even better.
The Steelers beat the Philadelphia Eagles and are now 2-0 in the preseason, and we all know how much that means. However, yeah, exactly. However, there are different things within the preseason that, of course, do matter. And the one big talking point in Pittsburgh right now, and probably in most NFL markets, is the backup quarterback. That's what the preseason is always about. Dwayne Haskins versus Mason Rudolph. Now, you know Mason, you played with him, so I want to start with the other guy because a lot of people around the league are talking about what Dwayne has done here in this camp. And has he gotten your attention?
He's gotten my attention simply because I think he's refocused himself. More than anything, being a pro is more than just what you do on the field, man. And that's what I'm seeing from him. No outside antics, really. If it is, I think he had a little issue about a couple weeks ago or something like that, but it was dead really fast. And truth be told, that's the luxury of being in Pittsburgh. It really is. It's not a lot going on. So when the sport's happening, if it's not as serious as it needs to be, then we move forward. That's how it is. Pittsburgh is a pro city, man. Like, that's just what it is. And for him, I feel like he's adjusted to it. I feel like the culture in which he's walked into inside that locker room is something that was necessary for his career. I feel like the guys that know what it takes to be a Pittsburgh Steeler has guided him in the right direction. And I think he's gotten to a point now, for the first time in his young NFL career, that he's learning what a pro means. And that doesn't mean he's going to be perfect on the field, but I just see he's readjusted himself to what's important to him. And he's done well from what I've seen thus far. He's a guy that's learning to make the plays that he needs to. He's throw the ball away when he has to. And he's continued to just make steps in the right direction. That's what you want to see. And I think the coaching staff is probably more or less encouraging, hey, you were a first rounder for a reason. Whether some think you was taken too soon or some thought you should have just been a second round guy. Like that chip that he had on his shoulder that night of the draft. Coach T, I'm telling you, and I don't know Matt Canada as well, but I guarantee you the chirping that he's had has been, this is your next, maybe last stop as far as you being able to establish yourself as a pro in this league. I'm telling you, Coach Tomlin is a guy that knows how to tap in to that look on his face when he had to sit there for a long time. And I'm sure he's pitted Mason against him in a competitive way.
Oh, does it with everybody. Yeah.
I know that to be the case right there without even having that conversation with nobody in that circle. And it seems to me that's his focus on the field now.
Well, that's the thing that, and I love the fact that you've bypassed all the football stuff, because there's nothing about Dwayne Haskins' skill set where you go, oh, he can't play in the NFL.
No.
I mean, you see the arm, you see I wouldn't say he's got about average speed.
Yeah,
he's got good authority.
He's moving.
Yes,
he's moving like
with
a
confidence.
Pro now.
Yes,
I know, and that's the crazy thing about it. He's not even with the whole entire first offensive line, but he's moving sideways. He's moving up in the pocket. He's commanding the football while doing those things. He doesn't look as lost with this team as he did in Washington. Respectfully, I say that, okay? Because I don't know if he had everything together in Washington. I think his left tackle, the All-Pro Trent Williams, was out because of medical issues for the most part. And they were just trying to find themselves as a team as they navigated front office stuff, as they navigated just who's going to be the franchise quarterback. He kind of got lost in the shuffle as far as which way his career was going to go.
Mm-hmm. And you say in command.
Yeah.
That's the exact phrase Tomlin used in Philadelphia afterward.
I
know you didn't know that. That's the beauty of it. But he actually used the phrase in command. He was in command. And that's what you saw. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that this is what I was getting to, that you're getting you went right past the football stuff and you go to the intangible stuff. Moan, I got to tell you, being there in Philadelphia, when he came into the room with us,
yeah,
and that was not Zoom call, nothing. They're coming into rooms now with us, and you just get a better sense, a better feel. I actually cracked a joke with him. You know how I am in the locker room. I'm just whatever, just keep it light, right? And I cracked a joke with him because he said something about how Mike Sullivan, the new quarterbacks coach, had told him, he said, just be Jazz out there. Be like smooth, be smooth Jazz, right? And you know, I'm the dummy. I had to ask, like, what did you mean by that? Did you mean Jazz like smooth, or did you mean it by improvisation? And he came back with a big smile on his face, and he said, real smooth Jazz. And I said, okay, now that's a confident young man, and maybe that's why a lot of people felt that in Washington that everything was rushed and he just needed to be brought in more slowly. He didn't need to be thrown on the field as a savior. And I just get the sense that he's composed. And let's talk about the other guy, Mason Rudolph, because this is the opposite story. Mason's gotten nothing but seasoning. Okay. Other than the one season where he was kind of thrown into things. You know, beginning that day in Santa Clara, California, he's in a different spot where he's expected every time he takes the field to look like a number one guy. And Moan, I wonder if this isn't almost unfair on both ends.
It really is, because this is the thing too. We're used to seeing Mason, like, and you know how that is.
Yep.
And what's funny is I'm talking to my producer this morning at my show about, you know, Mason versus Dwayne. My producer's a secret Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so
he's not so secret when we communicate. But yeah,
no, he's not. But he says, "Man, this whole thing between Dwayne and Mason," I was like, "Man, it sucks a little bit for Mason, because this is what happens when you bring in a new guy that everybody kind of knows. Everybody knows Dwayne." I was like, "Everybody's always excited about the shiny new toy."
Yes, including the public.
And truth be told, in Pittsburgh, I told him, I was like, man, I get what Mason's going through right now. Like, I went through this probably the first 5 years of my career, and like, man, I deserve to start. I deserve to play. But it's always, what about the guy behind him? Let's find something else, until you really got to step on somebody's neck and prove that, look, I'm the guy. Like, that's what you know what I'm saying? Like, that's where Mason is right now. It's like he just got a new contract this past offseason, a backup quality contract, which is really solid. And he's expected to be the guy number two, in a sense, because he's been there. He's proven himself. But we've seen so much of Mason that it's exciting to see a guy like Dwayne. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what you're looking at. You find ways to be more excited about the new guy. And if Mason blocks all of that out, horse blinders, if he does that and focus on his job, he's going to be fine, because this is the thing. I know that front office loves Mason Rudolph and his ability. And it's on him, DK, to not cave to the outside chatter.
What was the actual draft grade they hung on you?
On me?
Yeah.
They had me as a they had a 3 on me.
They had a 3 on you. And you know what they had on Mason, right?
A 1.
A 1. And what we haven't brought up here, although you kind of hinted at it earlier, is what actually is Dwayne Haskins' pedigree. What we don't know is what kind of grade they hung on him.
That's very true. But again, when we see the new guy throw the ball down the seam,
it's exciting.
It's exciting.
You're seeing Warren Moon, man. You're like,
this is new Patrick Mahomes, or this is that's the new Jazz that we're looking for. And that's no disrespect to either one of them. Both of them you're glad to have, because there are teams across this league, if QB1 goes down, they don't have much else. Having all three of those guys, Dobbs included, they got a horse stable of players that other teams may want to trade for, or they're in a way better position than I'd say 80% of the teams around the league as far as backup quarterbacks.
No, it's a good room. There's no question about that. Certainly a promising room. Last thing before we take a break here, Moan, is who's going to be 2 and who's going to be 3? Not necessarily on merit, but the way that you actually utilize them on Sundays, who's going to be 2 and who's going to be 3 based on how this coaching staff works.
Man, I made the prediction about Vinny being a starter over freaking over Spillane. It's kind of hard.
Well, he would have been now in hindsight.
And
they just went out and got Joe Short. We'll get into that.
Okay, after the break, who I see the guy should be Mason. Honestly,
okay.
We can't be too soon on Dwayne because this is a small menu.
Okay, there we go. When we come back, we're going to get into what it's like, possibly, to be blocking for Najee Harris. Welcome back to the Ramon Foster Show, which is always brought to you by the Get Go Cafe and Market, where they're open 24 hours a day, serving hot, fresh food. And take it from somebody who just went across the turnpike, Philadelphia. Those are great weapons to have along the way. Moan, before we get to the subject that I had mentioned, let's touch a little bit on the Steelers picking up Joe Schobert. Joe Schobert's a pretty good football player.
Yes, he
inside
is.
Linebacker. He's more of a coverage guy. He's not your classic, Vince Williams, Hardy Nickerson, Lawrence Timmons type. It's just going to be a couple of coverage inside linebackers, and there goes Robert Spillane, kind of like we've all been predicting, because he's now going to be a backup.
Yeah. Well, when you say you got coverage linebackers, it's because you got guys up front that can simply get to the ball too. That is a
good way that's a better way of putting it, because you think coverage linebackers, you're just thinking of pass coverage.
Yeah.
What you're really doing is covering everything, including screen passes and everything. Yeah, okay.
When we've seen guys on that defense chase down some of the fastest running quarterbacks in the league, then you can afford to drop back the linebackers. Is what's happening right now, too. And truth be told, Devin Bush is fast enough to be in coverage and come up and make a play on a runner. Let's just say running quarterbacks or something like that, because you have those in the AFC North. But Schobert is a guy, man, that Coach T raved about when he was in Cleveland. He was a big board guy.
Is that right? That's interesting.
We got to get to him. He's the guy that make this defense go. He's a smart guy. He's always breaking on the ball. He's the guy that's going to find himself sniffing the ball out when given an opportunity. They're more familiar with him than probably some guys on that roster. Just being frank about it.
That's amazing. I wasn't aware of this. I know that TJ Watt obviously was his teammate in Wisconsin, so they could have doubly vouched for character. Do they do that too, Ramon? Do they come to you and say, "Hey, do you know about this guy, or what do you think about this guy?"
I've had to answer questions about guys before. I'm actually listening. I was listening to an XM radio station yesterday, actually, and I heard Urban Meyer speaking about they had a guy in their camp simply because one of his guys that he trusted vouched for this guy.
Oh,
so it does happen. I'm sure TJ probably knew that, but we knew so much about Schobert over the years that I was like, whoa, wow, yes. After as many times we've broken him down as far as scouting,
that's
that
interesting.
Makes perfect sense to me. It simply does. He just got to get used to playing for friggin' Pittsburgh instead of Cleveland. I mean, but LJ Ford is in Baltimore. Let's think about that as far as linebacker play. They saw him do something special there too. So that whole I hate you is all good until they're on your team.
Yeah, right. Well, there's been more than a little bit of shuffling between Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore that we've actually in Cincinnati too, because look at the Bengals picking up Mike Hilton.
But he's a player though too. And again, they construct a roster based off of who you're going to play to. You got number one teams from each division this year because the Steelers won the AFC North.
Yeah.
All of those teams have really good quarterbacks. They have a passing game. Having Devin and also Schobert at linebacker lessens, I guess, shrinks the field a little bit because they can cover.
Yeah, well, remember when you're talking about the schedule and you're talking about the extra game, the Steelers' extra game this season is against Seattle, and I'm told they have a quarterback who can move a little bit as well up there. Moan, we've had a chance to see Najee Harris in this preseason, which has actually been kind of cool because there's been a couple of preseason games in which he's appeared, not for very long, but you've gotten to see what's there. And you've gotten to see him make something out of nothing. You've gotten to see that Eddie George, which is a parallel
Yeah.
that'll actually resonate more in your current part of the world than it will in mine, because that was what Eddie George would do. Eddie George would make it to the line of scrimmage, and you'd go, "Oh, there's nothing there," and then the next thing you know, 5 yards.
Dude, we're on the same mental frame today. Yes, because that was the first thing I was going to say. Just get him to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
That's all you, and not in a patient Le'Veon Bell type of way, but just don't let anybody trip his feet in the backfield, because he has the ability. And I hadn't met him personally, but he plays bigger than what his stature seems it to me. He's always falling forward. He's one of them types of running backs where linebackers hate to hit, to where if you can get him to the first level, he's going to get you 3, 3, man. That's 4th and 1. You might have to make a decision, or he might bust one to the sideline. He's a lightning and thunder type of dude. He doesn't shy away from physicality at all, being physical. He also has the speed to break away. So you want to know what it's like to block for a guy like that.
Well,
it's
that's
exciting.
the thing, Ramon, because I remember vividly you guys, and it wasn't just you, it was you, Dave, Allie, Marquise, Gil, all these guys on your line had 2 very different blocking mechanisms for whether it was Le'Veon Bell or D'Angelo Williams, because Lev would do that thing, and then he'd wait, and then he'd go up. Okay. Yep. And D'Angelo was the polar opposite. D'Angelo gets the ball, he sees a diagonal line in his head and just attacks it.
Yep.
And that made things hell for your opponents, because you guys could adjust. Now, when you watch Najee Harris, and I'm going to be blunt here, some guys last night, and I understand this line is all new and everything else here, but some guys you could tell just clearly had no idea what to do. Which direction should I go? Where should I be pushing? Yeah. And even the wide receivers, Moan, maybe especially the wide receivers, were like, they let go of their blocks way too soon, because they were used to having running backs getting a yard and going down. And this dude was still going, and you see, whoa. What do you do?
It's never say die. Everybody's got to adjust to it, like you said in that point. And I know Coach Clem is all over that. Block until you hear to the doggone whistle, and that in some form of that, okay, some form of coach speaking. And that's one thing I Coach T always harped on is, look, if you want to catch the ball, you better block on the outside too. Because those 5-yard plays turn into 15 and 50-yard plays if you on the outside. That is actually more important than the line of scrimmage for the
You're talking about wide receivers
now?
Wide
receiver
okay,
blocking.
All right.
Yes, to that point of them letting go of blocks too soon. They have a special back there. They legitimately have probably one of the best young backs in the entire league, probably best running backs, period. By the end of the year, I can see him being on the top 10 list. If all goes well, he doesn't have any injuries, and. Yeah, he's got to get through all of that. But this kid is special from what I've seen. His ability to see, and some running backs see a little bit too much, but he sees definitively what he needs to go to. And
what do you mean by that?
Because you can get spooked and not go outside when you're supposed to if you're seeing too much.
Okay.
He sees something out there and just goes. Like, that's the decision he making. And truly what I'm seeing also is the young guys are excited for him when he gets to the line of scrimmage. I saw young guys pulling him along when he's running the ball. You know, like, that's what you see out of that. And I think they are adjusting their mind frames to that too. I know Coach Clem is excited for this. I know he's all over trying to create a new attitude for these guys, a new identity for what the run game should be. When you get talked about all offseason and your job is to re-event the run game, it's going to be a point to get that done.
Well, I guess then the thing that I want to see the most is that attention to completing the block. Chooks did not have a good game. I don't think even Chooks would dispute that, because he's a pretty honest guy. And
yes,
part of what made his night rough, and I don't mean to pick on him,
right?
Because it's his first preseason game and whatever else here. But as it relates to this running back, I saw from him as well a lack of finish on those pulls. Mm-hmm. And I'm preaching to the choir here and speaking to a decade-long NFL offensive lineman, but you've got to be just as dedicated to those blocks that are way out there on the perimeter of the solar system as you do on the ones that are right in front of you, especially if you're going to do this zone blocking thing. It feels like there's a lot of work ahead here for Coach Clem.
And it is. So this is what happens, too, in this situation. This group is cultivating, this O-line group is cultivating their community. Those 5 to 7 to 8 guys that's going to be in that room, they're going to have a baseline of what they want to do and how they want to go about doing it too. The preseason games are good for reasons because of this. Like, they won last night. Coach T was excited about it. Of course, like, man, we got some more stuff we got to work on. As you said, Dwayne was happy about what he has to do. The object was to win the game in all competitions. What happens now, though, is you go from flying high to coming down here. Look, we got the job done, but you didn't do this. Coach T is not afraid to call people out and say, hey, look, this was 5 yards right here. But if you get your you-know-what downfield and finish this block, we get 20. We continue to drive. Like, all of the mum stuff that Coach T does in the media doesn't happen in the team meeting rooms. And that's what, like you said, with a guy like Chooks, he's expected to finish those blocks.
He call you out by name in a classroom setting?
He's going to put your picture up there and say, what the hell are you doing right here? Like,
I've never heard this.
That's the stuff that, that everybody take for granted when it comes down to him. And I appreciate Coach T being that way in the media, towards the media a little bit too, because that goes into where the respect factor comes into with a guy like him. That comes into where the accountability. And it's not degrading, but it's just simply the facts. The film is not going to lie. And that's one thing he's always did was, you are responsible for this. I'll never forget, what was it, my second year in Tampa. I was supposed to block. We were in Tampa. I think it was my second year. Second or third. I pulled down the line of scrimmage to block Runday Barber. Okay. I pulled down and Runday showed up out of nowhere, and I'm supposed to pulverize Runday.
You're supposed to do that with a corner, yes.
You know what I'm saying? And I hit him good, but I didn't finish him like I should have. Because
what do you mean?
I hit him, kicked him out like I was supposed to. Okay. But I didn't finish the block because that is I had to mentality. Okay.
You had to seal him off. Yeah.
And this is also this too. Runday is a pro's pro. The play is never dead if he's on his feet. So I hit him, bam, boom, moved him out of the way. I think it was Rashad or somebody downfield. They ran downfield. I forget who the running back was. Runday, though, hits, spin, chases him down.
Chases Mendenhall.
Chases whichever running back it was. Chases the running back down. Makes the tackle. The film on Monday morning, I think we won the game, was Moan. When are we going to stop doing this? Like, here's Runday. You're supposed to kill him. If you don't, this is a touchdown. Like, those are the things that happen.
Okay.
Like, that's what's going to happen to a guy like Chooks, who, like you said, got to learn to finish down.
Yeah, and I would hope Deontay did it more than once, where he just didn't even make an effort, and that's just not acceptable if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver. Not with this team.
As great as Rondé was, I'll never forget that play. Like, because the next day, him with his red laser beam.
It was the Ramon Show.
Yeah, buddy.
10 years before there was a Ramon Show. Monday morning Ramon Show.
But it made me accountable from there on out, though.
Well, I mean, I think that's what's got to happen here, because more than anything, this football team, this offense needs to get used to having a potentially elite running back.
Yeah.
More than anything else, I think that's what needs to happen here. And you need to finish those blocks and stay on them. And that did not happen in Philadelphia. Moan, when we come back, we're going to have some fun on our Slice of Life segment here and talking about how do you possibly fall asleep the night before an NFL game. Welcome back to the Ramon Foster Show, brought to you by the Get Go Cafe and Market. And this is, Moan, where we do our Slice of Life segment. And I thought of this one earlier in the week, the night before the game in Philadelphia, staying in a hotel there.
Yeah.
And as a writer, not for a preseason game, but as a writer for a regular season game, especially a playoff game, for my own job, for my own stuff that I have to do there, I'll get a little wired and I will have trouble sleeping.
Yeah.
Again, it's not because of the game or whatever. It's because of the magnitude of what we've got to do. Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea how you could possibly have slept on a Saturday night before a Sunday 1:02 p.m. kickoff. I have no idea.
Man, it as a young guy, you're usually just wired, like you're ready to go. The coaches do a really good job of keeping you occupied with meetings, with staring at a whiteboard, with, hey, come to this meeting. We got chapel here. We got this special teams meeting. We got that meeting. They almost strategically tire you down for the most part.
So Saturday, you got nothing left.
Saturday, you got nothing left, man. And it's the excitement of getting to the show, though, is part of it. But you got to, like, humanize yourself a little bit. Be like, okay, you just got to find a way to bring it back down. And that's what it really turns into. This, I think it's not as hard to fall asleep as it is you waking up early. I think that's the
what time
on those games, like 6:15. You know what I'm saying? Because I got stuff I got to do. 7 at the latest. You know, and even it's
for a home game.
Yeah, for a home game. And it's even the same thing for the late game. So, DK, like, you're waking up early still, and the idea of, man, I'll just rest throughout the day because I want to check out the games that are played before us. I want to be able to I don't want to be too bogged down to where I'm not ready to go. Now, some guys are different, though. Some guys will sleep on the way to the stadium, or
you mean on a bus?
On the bus, yeah, on the bus on the way to the stadium, and you just find ways to, like, zone in. But the night before is always let me check off this box, watch a little bit more film, and then I'll turn on the TV, and then I'll watch some more film, and then I'm scrolling. Like, it's a whole process to really, I ain't gonna say enjoy, but it's just I'm in this moment, you know?
Yeah, but you're so chill, Ramon. I'm gonna try to picture somebody else that I could ask this question to where they'd give a completely different answer. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Tyler Matakevich. There, let's throw that one out there. You think Tyler Matakevich sleeps the night before a game?
Yeah, I think he does. I think Dirty Red would, man. Guys, now if you're asking me what is a rookie doing in these preseason games, worried out of their mind.
Yeah.
Because it's the first, I'll never forget, like, I was so nervous that first game, my preseason rookie year, that all I could think of, did I do enough in camp? Am I prepared? How in the world do I watch film on somebody that I don't even know who I'm playing against? It's where, like, the anxiety of my first couple years as opposed to later
that's
was
interesting.
Out of this world, because you really have no tape. You've only been studying against the guys you go against in practice. And, like, it's the anticipation of walking on that field in that jersey. At the time, we weren't Reebok jerseys, okay?
Mm-hmm.
In that jersey, putting on those shoes, do I look fine? Am I conditioned enough to handle this? Am I a pro? Like, those were the things that ran through my mind as a young guy the night before. I'll never forget. I walked on the field, and we were in Washington. And we were in the huddle, and the young guys had went in, DK. And I'll never forget, we did our little dap thing that we do. I messed that up. I didn't know how to do the dap from the center to the guard to the tackle. I was just lost out of my mind because I'm nervous. I literally looked down at myself and pinched myself because I was surprised, shocked that I was actually on an NFL field playing in an NFL game and had to fight, honestly, for a job I didn't know I was going to get. So you want to talk about anxiety for young guys and the reality that, look, if I go out here and get swim moved over or get picked for a sack or have a bad play,
that could be it.
I could get cut.
Yeah.
I think it was more of those things, the uncertainty of those first couple years that just blew my mind on what it actually meant the night before. And you hear the stories. You see all of the vets who just chilling. And here you are with your playbook in hand, just
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and then
I
came
do.
in on the year after they won a Super Bowl.
That's a beautiful perspective. The idea that it's funny on one hand, and I know you talked about this every single season, that there was no such thing as I made it. Okay, no. But there's different degrees of being there. And when you entered, a certain season and, you're on the roster and you are the starter, there's going to be, I don't know if comfort level, certainly not with the way Mike Tomlin uses that word, would apply, but maybe more of a confidence, I guess. Would that be the right way to word it?
Going into my later years of confidence?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit different, Dan.
This is my job. I am that guy.
Yeah, 100%. Like that. Why you doubt me? Like I'm here for a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out here and give this work in, and I'm gonna get out real quick. Like that was later years, and you want to talk about a guy that had problems like that in the preseason games the night before, Ziggy Hood. Like
really?
he was a guy that was moving the entire time and just bouncing around, because you got to think he went into a super veteran room with guys that were just studs across, and he was supposed to be the new wave of that.
Ziggy Hood comes in when it's Aaron Smith and Brett Kiesel and Casey Hampton, and then there's Ziggy, and it's like,
Kursky, like he was in a dominating room, man. So he was a guy that had to prove himself. I think it may have been more pressure because he was that first.
He was a first-round pick too, and a lot of us had really, really high hopes for him. And Ziggy did okay. It's just that he wasn't, those guys.
But you see, like I think that may have been a little bit of that pressure of like, how do I perform? But like, let's say year 7 or even year 5, when I got that first contract or that second contract, I was just like, whew, I know I ain't gonna get cut this year.
Yeah. So you get back to, and this is what one thing before we're done for this week, just to highlight something that you brought up in this third segment multiple times, is that your focus is always on your singular opponent. And I don't know that enough people realize that about football. I will never forget standing atop the steps in Latrobe, interviewing James Harrison when he came into camp. This was only 3 or 4 years ago, so it wasn't that long ago. And somebody, wasn't me, mercifully, asked Debo about how much football has changed over the years.
Yeah.
And he looks at this individual like they're the dumbest rock on earth and says to them, football ain't changed, man.
Oh.
You line up, you beat the man across from you. That's all football is. And I thought, you know what? That's actually true.
Okay. Like legitimately, I laugh at people that say, it's fake football and preseason. This doesn't count. These guys are soft, and the acclimation period is too long. Or you go 3 days and you did no. Like you said, the singular focus, Mike T word, the singular focus that you have when it comes down to in football. And I tell my oldest this, who's doing tackle now, don't get it misconstrued. Whatever you say you're going to do in football, you have to do it, because it's one of the only sports in which the physical element of it is what's going to test you the most. Like going against James Harrison. Yes, it's intimidating, but guess what? I need to focus in on getting this job done. If you get me on one play, then physically I got to outdo you the next time. Those elements of the sport hadn't changed. The competition aspect of it. Football is football as football is at any single level, at any single time of the year. And going at it, proving you belong as a young rookie. Even still, proving it as a vet. Same way Mason is going through right now. You better lock in or you'll get the boot.
It's just beautiful. The Pat Freiermuth, the second-round tight end of the Steelers out of Penn State, last night got schooled on his very first snap. And afterward, he talked about it. He brought it up on his own. And he mentioned the name of the individual who beat him. I'm going to tell you this right now, Moan. 5 years from now, he won't remember where that game was, which team they played, or what the score was. He'll remember that dude's name.
You better believe it, okay? Because the game ain't changed, like James said.
Moan, this has been awesome.
It is.
We should do this again like next week. What the heck, right?
Give the people what they want, DK.
Here it comes. We'll do it after the Steelers play the Detroit Lions in their next exhibition, and that'll be the real exhibition. That's the one with Ben Roethlisberger and the whole offensive line, and everybody will finally be together. Moan, take care.